They say you lose a man the same way you got him and Marla Maples. Donald Trump's second wife learned that the hard way. Dottie sneaked into his life as the other woman, while he was still married to his first wife. Married him in the early 90s, only to watch him slip away 6 years later to yet another woman, Dot. And now, after staying tight, lived for over 2 decades, Marla has finally broken her silence and let the cat out of the bag about why she really walked away from the Donald. Dot, but to get the full picture of their dramatic love story, we've got to rewind and see exactly how this whirlwind romance even got started. Marla Maples and Donald Trump's relationship didn't exactly start on the smoothest note. Back in the late 1980s, Marla, who was a small-town girl from Georgia trying to make it big as an actress and model, met Donald Trump at a time when he was already making headlines as a flashy real estate mogul with a golden penthouse, a booming ego, and, oh, yeah, a wife and 3 kids. Now what made their relationship? The talk of the town wasn't just that Trump was married. I mean, for one, plenty of rich men at the time had affairs. So that part wasn't entirely shocking. The real shocker was how blatantly public their affair became. Trump and Marla weren't sneaking around in shadows. They were out there front and center, splashed across endless gossip columns and whispers at fancy New York cocktail parties, as if they didn't care who noticed, and plenty of people did. At the time, Trump was married to Ivana Zelnivova, a glamorous Czech model who fled communist rule, wasn't just the woman by Trump's side. She had a hand in his empire, working as vice president of interior design, and reportedly leaving her mark on Trump Tower's gold-encrusted interiors. Together they had 3 kids, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric. From the outside, it all looked like a picture-perfect power family. But while the public saw a wealthy, glamorous family, the cracks were already forming by 1989. Those cracks turned into something bigger when Marla and Trump's connection deepened that year, just as Trump and Ivana's marriage was hitting the rocks. Marla came into the picture in a big way. According to her, they had exchanged pleasantries at events before. But that day on Madison Avenue felt different. She later described it as the kind of spontaneous encounter that changes everything. And it did from that moment. Marla wasn't just a face in the crowd anymore. She was the woman who would upend Trump's already crumbling marriage and take her own place in his chaotic headline-filled world on February 16th, 1990. Donald Trump's personal life exploded onto the front pages of the New York Post. The headline wasn't subtle. It claimed that Marla Maples had told friends Trump was the best lover she had ever had. The story hit like a wrecking ball, and suddenly everyone in New York had something to say about Trump's messy affair. For weeks the tabloids couldn't get enough. Every detail of Trump's crumbling marriage to Ivana and his public relationship with Marla became a front page, spectacle feeding the city's endless appetite for scandal. But the real drama had actually unfolded a couple of months earlier, during the infamous Aspen Showdown in December 1989. Trump whisked Ivana and their 3 children off to the glitzy Colorado ski resort for what was supposed to be a picture-perfect family holiday. The problem was that Trump also invited Marla, his mistress, to Aspen, because nothing screams romance like a secret mistress lurking around while you're on vacation. With your wife, as luck, or should we say fate would have it. Ivana and Marla crossed paths, and unfortunately the encounter wasn't pretty. What began as a seemingly ordinary ski day turned into a nightmare, when Ivana realized exactly who the young blonde woman approaching her was. The brief confrontation left no doubt in Ivana's mind that her marriage was over. After that day, any hopes of reconciliation were dead in the water by February 1990, just 2 months after the Aspen debacle. Trump officially filed for divorce. The press had a field day treating Ivana and Marla like rival characters in a soap opera. And while Ivana moved on and focused on rebuilding her life, Marla was stepping into the spotlight as Trump's new leading lady for anyone expecting a fairy tale ending, though what came next was more of a plot twist. Instead of living happily ever after, Donald and Marla's relationship would soon prove to be just as turbulent as the one that came before. It's safe to say that when Donald Trump and Marla Maples announced their wedding plans, plenty of people were shocked after the messy headline, "Grabbing Divorce from Ivana." Few thought Trump would walk down the aisle again so soon, especially considering how much his first split had cost him. The Ivana divorce wasn't just a breakup, it was a tabloid sensation. The legal drama alone was worthy of its own soap opera, with accusations, power plays, and a hefty financial settlement that left jaws on the floor. During the divorce proceedings, reports circulated that Trump had locked Ivana out of her office at the Plaza Hotel, sparking a heated legal battle over the validity of not one, but 4 prenuptial agreements they had renegotiated during their marriage. As this played out, the media went wild for 11 consecutive days. Ivana Trump and Marla dominated the front pages of New York's newspapers, and gossip columnist Liz Smith kept the story running for 3 solid months. People just couldn't get enough of the love triangle and the fiery divorce that followed by the time the divorce was finalized. In December 1990, Ivana walked away with a settlement fit for royalty. She received $14 million, a sprawling 45-room mansion in Connecticut, an apartment in Trump Plaza, and even the right to use Mar-a-Lago for a month each year. But there was a catch. As part of the deal, Ivana had to sign a strict non-disclosure agreement that prevented her from publicly discussing their marriage without Trump's approval, a clause that would keep their dirty laundry hidden from the public eye for years to come. So when Trump decided to marry Marla, it wasn't exactly surprising that he was a little more careful this time around, determined not to repeat history. Trump insisted on an ironclad prenuptial agreement. Before they said, "I do this prenup far stricter than the ones he had signed with Ivana," made sure that if things went south, again Trump's empire would stay firmly under his control, with that paperwork squared away. Donald and Marla were ready to tie the knot, but as it turned out, their marriage would come with its own set of challenges. Marla and Trump tied the knot in December 1993, just 3 years after his messy divorce from Ivana. But by the time Trump and Marla walked down the aisle, it seemed like the chaos had finally simmered down. They threw a massive wedding at the Plaza Hotel, which Trump owned with over 1,000 guests, including celebrities, business tycoons, and socialites. It had all the makings of a fairy tale moment. If you didn't know how complicated things really were behind the scenes, you see their marriage didn't exactly happen because they were starry-eyed and head over heels. The driving force of the marriage was really Tiffany, their daughter, who had already been born by the time they got married. And let's just say Trump's reaction to finding out Marla was pregnant wasn't exactly a scene from a rom-com. He wasn't jumping for joy or planning baby names. Instead, he was reportedly shocked and unsure of what to do next. Marla, on the other hand, seemed over the moon about becoming a mom, even if Trump wasn't quite on the same page at the time. Trump was dealing with a lot business pressures, media scrutiny, and, well, the aftermath of a scandalous affair that had already been headline news for years. According to Marla, it was the tragic Long Island Railroad shooting in December 1993 that made him rethink his life and priorities. After that, he decided to propose. It sounds romantic at first, but when you consider everything that led up to it, the whole situation was a lot messier than it appeared. From the outside, their wedding looked like the start of a glamorous new chapter. But for anyone paying close attention, the cracks were already starting to show. Trump hadn't been fully on board with fatherhood, and their relationship had been through so much turbulence already that it was hard to imagine things magically settling down just because they said I do. As it turned out, saying their vows didn't fix anything. The tension between them only grew, and the issues they'd been brushing under the rug didn't go away. They just got harder to ignore, while Marla would later share more about what went wrong. The truth is, this marriage was on shaky ground. From the start, it wasn't built on a foundation of love and trust. It was built on circumstances, timing, and a whole lot of outside pressure. And when that's what you're working with, it's only a matter of time before things start to crumble. Marla Maples and Donald Trump's marriage was doomed from the start. And looking back, it's not hard to see why they were two people who couldn't have been more different, thrown together by scandal. Swept up in the chaos of tabloid headlines and ultimately torn apart by the undeniable fact that their worlds just didn't fit Trump, with his relentless drive for power and success, and Marla with her small-town values and search for something deeper, were living two entirely different lives, under one roof. Trump was the quintessential New Yorker raised in Queens, by a father who taught him that business was war, winning was everything, and success was measured in dollars and skyscrapers. By the time he met Marla, he had already built a real estate empire and was making headlines as one of the city's most recognizable power players. His life was a constant balancing act of deals, media appearances, and maintaining the larger-than-life image he had so carefully crafted. Marla, on the other hand, came from an entirely different world. She grew up in Cohutta, Georgia, a tiny rural town where life was simple, and community meant everything. Raised in a modest religious household, she was taught to value kindness, faith, and emotional connection, things that couldn't have been further from the cutthroat world. Trump inhabited at first. Their differences might have added a spark, but it didn't take long for those contrasts to become a glaring problem. The cracks started to show early on. Trump ever. The businessman was still laser-focused on expanding his empire, and his work always came first. He thrived on the chaos of high-stakes deals and constant media attention, while Marla wanted something quieter, something real. But life with Trump wasn't built for quiet moments or emotional depth. It was built for appearances, and that was never going to be enough for her to make matters worse. Trump's past experience with marriage and fatherhood didn't exactly help things. He had already been through it all with Ivana. And by the time he married Marla, his priorities hadn't changed. Business was still his, one focus, and while he cared for his children, he wasn't the type to slow down for family life. Marla, on the other hand, had hoped for something more. A partner who would truly see her and be present in their relationship. Instead, she found herself married to a man who was more interested in his next big deal than in building a life with her. However, beyond the shaky foundation of their marriage, you can say the last straw were the rumors as Donald Trump and Marla's marriage unraveled. One of the most controversial incidents during their relationship added even more fuel to the fire. In 1996, rumors exploded after a shocking report surfaced involving Marla and one of Trump's bodyguards, Spencer Wagner. According to these reports, the alleged incident occurred at Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, where the couple often vacationed. What happened that night became one of the most widely discussed scandals of their marriage. It all began on a quiet, deserted beach at 4 a.m. according to an incident report dated April 16, 1996. A police officer on patrol approached a lifeguard stand and noticed Wagner sitting nearby when questioned. Wagner claimed he was alone. But moments later, a woman emerged from the shadows. That woman was Marla Maples. Trump's wife when the story broke. It caused an immediate media frenzy. Tabloids splashed it across their front pages, and gossip shows had a field day speculating about what really happened that night. Both Marla and Wagner denied any wrongdoing, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. Marla claimed she had only been taking a bathroom break on the beach when the officer showed up. Wagner echoed her denial, stating that nothing inappropriate had occurred between them. The denials didn't stop the whispers. 4 months after the incident, Trump abruptly fired Wagner, which only added more fuel to the rumors. People speculated that there had to be more to the story than Marla and Wagner had admitted. Wagner later gave a confession to a tabloid admitting that something had happened that night. After all, he claimed he and Marla had been making out on the beach when the officer interrupted them, saying our passion boiled over and we made love. It was a bombshell revelation that added even more layers to an already scandalous situation. Wagner's ex-wife, Mary Miller, later came forward with her own version of events. According to Miller, Wagner had told her privately that he and Marla never had an affair. Instead, he described Marla as being out of control and claimed she had been the one pursuing him. Miller alleged that Wagner confided in her about Marla's behavior, saying she would sometimes try to pull him into a bedroom at the estate, and was often aggressive about it. Miller also claimed that Wagner had described Marla as a party girl, who loved to let loose whenever she was at Mar-a-Lago. The scandal had devastating consequences for Wagner. After Trump fired him, he struggled to find work, and the relentless media scrutiny took a serious toll on his mental health. According to Miller, the combination of negative press and unemployment left him deeply hurt and broken, tragically on January 1st, 2012. Wagner passed away from a substance overdose. The fallout from the scandal left lasting damage for Marla. It was yet another controversy that added to the growing cracks in her marriage to Trump. For Wagner, on the other hand, it marked the beginning of a downward spiral that would end in tragedy. And for the public, it was one more chapter in the ongoing drama of Donald Trump's tumultuous personal life. Years after Marla Maples and Donald Trump's short-lived marriage ended, details about their prenup agreement finally spilled into the public eye. And let's just say, it didn't exactly scream happily ever after. According to the leaked terms, Marla would walk away with $1 million if the marriage ended within 5 years, plus another $1 million to buy a house now. To the average person, that might sound like a lot, but when you compare it to Trump's first wife, Ivana, who scored over $25 million in cash and assets after their divorce, Marla's payout looked more like a consolation prize. Marla later hinted that signing that prenup wasn't exactly her idea. In an interview, she suggested that the contract had been a huge sticking point before the wedding, and she only went along with it because she believed they'd revisit it later. Unfortunately for her, they didn't. This little confession sent the rumor mill into overdrive, with people wondering if their marriage had been doomed from the start, built more on legal fine print than love and trust. What really raised eyebrows, though, were some of the oddly specific clauses in the prenup. Trump agreed to pay child support for their daughter, Tiffany, but with a catch: the payments would stop if Tiffany ever got a full-time job, joined the military, or signed up for the Peace Corps. Yep, you read that right. It's not every day you see a Peace Corps clause in a prenup. And it left people wondering just how much control Trump wanted over the whole situation by the time their marriage hit the rocks. It was clear that the financial side of things had been carefully locked down from the start. The lopsided terms Marla's later regret about the agreement and their very different priorities all painted a picture of a relationship that may have been more about protecting Trump's fortune than building a solid, lasting union.